That's a spooktacular countdown.
Spooky.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to CLCI Live in October.
Yes. Favorite
We,
month.
Oh, it's your favorite month.
It is.
I think
Nice.
it's a good month. Except California's on fire all the time.
It's a fun month. Yeah, that is true. California is on fire.
Other than that, last month we were doing Balance 101, and now we are doing Scary 101.
Ooh,
Things that life coaches find terrifying.
scary.
Good topic.
And we're looking at how coaches can do harm. But before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, and interact with us in the videos. If you guys have scary things you'd like to share, we will read your comments. We will answer your questions. It's good fun. We like talking with other people.
Also, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. That way you know when we go live again, you know when we get new videos, all that good stuff.
So we are talking Scary 101, how coaches can do harm. We're not talking like physical harm, right? We're talking financial, emotional, maybe, physical harm, emotional
that would be a way that a coach could do some harm.
spiritual harm.
Two ways.
We know that coaches help people a lot, but sometimes wayward, and I'm going to put coaches in quotes because these coaches aren't ICF accredited and ethical coaches. Or maybe they are, and they're just sort of doing things maybe a little incorrectly, a little wrong, but can always be adjusted later on. So big ways they harm, small ways they harm. Things you can look out for in your next coach. So where do we begin?
At the beginning.
Okay. This is the beginning.
Sorry, I'm busy in the background doing other things right now. So I just need a minute or two for you guys. So Jen and everybody else hop on.
Jen, maybe if you want to give us a little anecdote, a personal anecdote to get us started.
A personal anecdote on how I have been harmed by life coaches.
Yes.
Yes, I can share that. I have two experiences with life coaches. The one I wouldn't really call harm. I would say questionable stuff. The second one was definitely harm. So the first one, first of all, you have to keep in mind when I share this story, I am sharing this from me before I was a coach, before I was exposed to coaching. Like I had no idea what coaching was. And I met a life coach and I was really interested in what she did and ended up working with her. So I had no knowledge about coaching, no knowledge about ethics, nothing. So keep that in mind as I share this. This is a very different Jen that I'm going to be sharing. So
before we begin, can I ask quickly, what made you want to seek out a life coach in the first place?
So I wasn't looking for a life coach at all, actually. I was just miserable in, a cycle of jobs that I just, hated and that weren't right for me. And I felt like I had a lot of untapped potential. And this life coach happened to just kind of come into my life. And I became interested in the way she talked, the way she thought, I just kind of was magnetically pulled towards this person because I had never met anyone that kind of, talked like her. She talked like a pretty, I would say, like cliche coach. It was very cliche coach speak. And I never heard that before. So I was really interested in that. Like, just for example, what I mean by that is like, how does that serve you? I'd never heard that before. That to me was wild. Like, what? We can ask that question? That's something I should be asking. So little things like that with the way she talked really got me interested And then it, of course, kind of sold me on the idea of like, if we work together, I can get what I want. I can create the life I want. I can achieve what I want. Does that answer the question?
Yes, not very quickly like I asked, but it did answer the question. Okay, so you meet with a life coach.
Yeah, you know my stories are not going to be like short here. This is going to be like a few minutes. Are we good with that?
A few minutes
Yeah.
is fine. 30
Okay.
minutes.
It's not going to be 30 minutes.
Okay.
Well, I
alright,
mean,
I'll keep
we
it
can just turn it into a coaching session, you know.
Okay, no, that's what we do when we've got nothing to talk about. Which I've got things to talk about, but let's let Jen finish her stories.
So, the first coach, I feel like 3 things kind of maybe sort of harmed a little. So, the first one is sales pressure. So, one of the things, you know, when I talk to her and she tells me the price, which I'll be transparent about that, it was $150 an hour. You know, at the time I was like, whoa, like I can't afford that. And, you know, could I afford that? Looking back, like maybe to this day, I still don't know if I feel good about that or not. So there was a little bit of pressure on like, you know, like some of the things that she said, I see in retrospect were like overcoming objections or coaching me through objections, which I think is probably controversial in the first place to even be talking about this because it's like, isn't that something that is just normal that people do? And I don't think it is. I actually have a problem with this. So, you know, things she's
So can I pause you for a second? What do you
Yeah.
mean by coaching you through objections?
Yeah. So like she would ask me, you know, and I would tell her that, you know, I just can't afford this, you know, like, is there any other, you know, option? Like I was basically saying, I want to work with you, but I cannot afford $150 an hour weekly. That was all she was offering me. And, you know, instead of giving me another offer or anything, she was just like, well, what would your life be like a year from now if you don't do this? You know, what is it costing you to not take action on the life you want? Which actually really hit major pain for me and ultimately got me to it. Yeah.
So it's a good sales tactic. I don't know if it's strictly coaching.
So she was asking for $600 a month, and she was not giving you any leeway in that. And then with the $600 a month, was there a time commitment, an X amount of time you had to work with her?
Well,
Like a
so
minimum?
with that price tag, I felt really uncomfortable about committing to anything. She wanted me, of course, tried to sell me on a year-long package first. I said absolutely
Whoa.
not. Then she tried to sell me on 6 months, and I said that's still too much. So would you be willing to do 3 months for me? And she said she was as like a special exception. You know, and it's like looking back on this, I think that's total bullshit now. But at the time, I didn't know any better. So at the time, I was like, oh, she's willing to make an exception for me. Like I felt honored, you know? So I did 3 months and did not get the results that I was hoping for, but I was starting to shift and change and grow, and I liked where it was heading. And so I realized, okay, I want to keep going. So I did another 6 months with her. So ultimately still didn't get the exact results I wanted with this coach, but she got me to the place where the next coach was able to get me to the results that I wanted. But even as I say that, it wasn't the coach. It was me. I did all the work. And that's why I give my clients all the credit because it wasn't them. It was I needed that space to explore and to be challenged and boom, I did the work and that's really ultimately what made the difference.
So
go on.
do I have permission to do some math really quick?
Yeah.
With you? So you ended up working with her for 9 months
Mhm.
and spent about $5,400.
Yep.
Okay. But how did you, and that when you sit down and feel like, how does that feel for you?
Not good.
Okay.
Doesn't feel good. It feels, you know, and this could just be me, but it feels like a really high investment for something that I potentially could have gotten, you know, like I sometimes question, like, had I maybe like, I don't know, Had I just kept on my own path of self-help, could I have cracked the code and figured it out and changed myself? Like I genuinely don't know.
So
I do think it started something for me that, you know, for whatever reason, I was stuck. I will acknowledge that. And the coaching got me unstuck. But was it worth $5,400 for that 9 months? Well, I had to hire another coach after that. So I don't know. I really don't.
But
And I'm not passing any judgment. I'm not telling anybody that whether it was right to charge that much or not charge that much. I think that it's entirely up to individual coach and what people are willing to pay. I just think it's important for Jen to share what her experience was and how she felt at the end of it. Here's my other question. Would you go back to that coach?
No, absolutely not. And it's for a couple other reasons. So the other two reasons are I felt, again, this is hard to say because I know a lot now and I didn't know a lot then. So I'm speaking from a place of not knowing. I didn't know it, but there was a lack of professionalism. So for example, she would show up doing other things. She would show up walking for exercise. She would show up walking her dog, and she would show up in the car, sometimes driving. And I didn't know any better. You know, I didn't. And so I allowed it. Yeah, I allowed it for $150 an hour. Looking back,
this point, I am passing judgment, man. Like now, I'm just on the book. She's paying you $150 an hour, and she can't sit her butt down.
I'm paying her $150 an hour, and she can't be present.
She doesn't have that's madness. Sorry.
She's in high demand. She's in such high demand. She can sit down.
It's also, and to be fair to Jen, I'm not, and no judgment to you at all in that space, Jen, because again, you didn't know better. And at that point, you've got sunken cost fallacy, right? You're committed to it. You're in it. So you are going to work it as best you can to get where it's worthwhile to you out of it, right? Because you're probably harder on yourself than for having spent that much. So you're going to show up and you're going to get every possible bit of info, what you can out of that, because that amount of money is very important to you, right? I mean,
1000%. And so looking back, like, you know, had she built that into her coaching agreement and said, hey, I am a mom on the go and I'm going to have to show up and multitask, that would have been like, oh, wait, let me rethink spending this amount of money on this, because I don't know if that actually makes sense. I don't know if that feels aligned for me.
I mean, we can at least cut that in half because you're doing something else at the same time, right? Like, so
that's another reason. And then the final reason I would not rehire her is because she didn't have ICF training. Again, I had no idea what coach training was or anything, so I didn't know. But she would answer questions directly. And I remember specifically 2 times when she shared her opinion about something. And I actually held a very opposite opinion on these 2 things. And it was really uncomfortable because I was like, was she supposed to tell me that? Because now I feel a little like different in this space. And after the second time she did it, and she just offered it too. Like, it's not like I was like, tell me what you think. It wasn't like that at all. It was like, we were in a coaching session and she just goes into how she thinks and feels. And I was like, oh no, that doesn't feel good to me. And so that was it. After the second time she did that, I knew I was done with her.
I've had a very similar experience happen with me and my, where essentially what I did, I had a coach feed me, like, you know, and it felt like they were serving their own agenda. Like it 100% felt like they were serving their own agenda. And so in that moment, I was like, this isn't right for me. This doesn't fit me right. And I felt so uncomfortable, and it immediately disconnected me from my coach, because at that point it became, this session isn't about me. This session is about them and what they want out of that get out of this session. And it shut me down. And I never went back. It was like, I'm done, not coaching with that person anymore, over it, done. Like I couldn't, because it just wasn't, you're not understanding me, or not taking the time to understand me. And instead you're forcing me into a box that I don't fit in and want to fit in. So yeah, ick.
So those are the three things. The pressure. I felt a little bit, not at the time. Actually, no, I take that back. At the time, I had to have very, very serious talks with my husband about making this investment. He was like, "No, this is crazy. Why would you spend that? Like, you can get what you want in other ways." And I was like, "No, this is it. This person's perfect for me. Like, this is my chance." And I'm looking at that going, she really manipulated, the pain point of being stuck. And again, I don't regret it because I have had major results and I've had a ton of growth and I absolutely love where I've gotten since I started, exploring coaching. But had I not got those results, holy crap, I would feel totally scammed, totally manipulated, totally taken advantage of. And I think that's where, for me, I think of it as like, did this coach cause harm? Could she have caused harm? Yes, big time.
Can I ask one more question, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of. I have two questions. So the first question, I'm going to. I want to. What was it specifically that made you or got you to sign on after the first 3 months were up?
Because I liked having a conversation where she was doing actual coaching sometimes. She was reflecting back. She was questioning me in a way that felt really powerful and really valuable. She was inviting me to explore alternative perspectives. And that in itself was incredibly, incredibly helpful for me. Could I have gotten that with a therapist? Perhaps. But I had, burnt out of therapy. I had gotten to the point where therapy just wasn't doing that. It wasn't focused on future. It wasn't focused on where I wanted to go. And so that was ultimately why I was like, I need help, but who do I need help from? Oh, a life coach? Perfect. But this is just coach one, you guys. This is the tame story. Okay. We still have another coach that has harmed me or that I have felt that I have been harmed by, or whatever you want to phrase it as.
So before we go into that coach, the next one, which I think I know a little about the next one, and it's a doozy. Thank you, Jen, for we should just like put us off to the side and make Jen the big one. We should like not me, but do it this way.
Oh, man,
Instead of sharing. So my next question for you is, what would you tell people who are out there looking for a coach and meet someone that is doing the same thing that she did to you? At least, I mean, in both the point of signing up and maybe in the point of re-signing up as well.
Yeah. So at the point of signing up, I was like hooked on the hope. It was like a drug. Like I was so hooked on the idea of, oh my God, I can change my life. I can create what I want. Again, a lot of very typical coach speak was used. And so I was very like, at the time, my husband had really, really solid, rational questions and reasoning. And I was emotional about his questions. I got upset when he asked me questions. This is a flag. This is a big red flag. This means that you're not in your logical brain. You're not in your thinking brain. This means that, you need to slow down, in my opinion. I moved really fast.
So you move really fast. So slow down.
So slow down.
The next, so you were thinking from an emotional place. You said it was a very emotional space. Is there anything anybody could have asked you or asked themselves, or you could have asked yourself in that moment that maybe would be a way to sort of signify I'm reacting emotionally?
Yeah. When you get upset, when people are asking valid questions, that's your sign that
what could you ask yourself Like if you put it in a question form.
You know, what makes this question such a problem, really? I mean,
Okay.
Did you at the time, did you think that it was a valid question, or did you think that this was a nonsense or not valid question?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm answering this question from present gen brain,
Uh-huh.
which has a lot of knowledge. So looking back, I got emotional and didn't like my husband's questions because they were hitting a nerve. Deep
Okay.
down, I knew he was right. Deep down, I knew the investment was crazy for
But you really
what
wanted
I
this.
was. I did. I really
Well-
wanted it. And of course, at the end of the day, he was supportive.
What did
So
you want? What was it that you wanted?
I wanted to get out of the cycle of jobs that I had no business doing, that didn't, I didn't feel any passion or excitement towards. I was just in an endless cycle of like, it's just a job and I have to die a little bit on the inside just to go to the job every day.
I know that
I wanted
feeling.
out of that.
So you were
I know that feeling very well.
Tell me if this sounds right and if I'm wrong. You were like basically you were in a very emotional space where you wanted to work on something that was very emotional, very important to you, and you were very uncomfortable in something that was happening in your life. And it was the hope of getting out of this very uncomfortable space that you didn't want to be in anymore, and this promise of being able to do that, which I think is so reasonable for it to hit a nerve when it's being questioned, because this is the solution, right? This is gonna solve this thing that is making me so miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
like, how dare you question that? I've got the answer right here. Let me just do it.
This is the answer. So maybe the solution is not only that acknowledging it's coming from an emotional place, but just having an awareness that it may not be the solution, that at the end of 9 months, you might not have that full solution.
Yeah.
You may have grown, you may have learned, but you may not have the solution.
Yeah.
And just being willing to acknowledge that when you're being pressured with the solution, but just to be skeptical, probably.
Yeah,
right?
like looking back,
Put on the skepticals.
If it would have been phrased as like, yeah, I don't know exactly where you will be in 6 months of working with me. That's the truth, is I can't guarantee you any results, but here's what I can guarantee you. You're going to understand yourself so much more. You're going to feel better about yourself and the things you think and the things you feel and your decisions, because I'm going to help guide you to yourself, and you're going to have a better ability to tune out all this noise and really just pay attention to you. Oh my God, I would have been like, yeah, I want that. That sounds great. That sounds like it would really help me, because that's part of the problem, is that I wasn't ever, able to turn inward. It was just kind of a mess. And I just was like on a hamster wheel, just running so hard and just getting nowhere.
That's why they call it the grind.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Again, I don't regret it. And this is the thing. I don't regret it because it got me to a place where I did feel better. I felt that I hadn't changed jobs yet, but I felt much better. I had a better experience. I was more aware. I was more mindful. So I'm in this job that I hate, but I'm like mindful of everything that's going on. I'm understanding what's going on. I have more grace and compassion for myself. So yes, at the end of the day, like, the coaching worked, but in a completely different way than she acted like it was going to work.
Which is,
and that's
maybe
the problem.
That's like the 400 IQ move. Maybe your coach was actually a genius. She knew it was going to end up like this, and she's like, I got to pretend to be the bad coach for a little bit.
To rephrase this too quickly, for coaches in this, how coaches can do harm is our topic, right? So the harm there was not promising, not or promising results that you aren't necessarily going to give. That was a big way
And, like,
that
in no way guarantee at
we
all.
can't guarantee that, right? The other part that was dangerous in that is the pressuring for money, putting her under a time constraint, making her feel like it has to happen now, which causes this pressure, which exacerbates this emotional reaction, right? We're not allowing that person to make a decision from a place, we're forcing them to make a decision from a place of panic, from a place of when they're already emotional, we're hitting pain points, right? And this is it becomes a very manipulative. So if we are a coach that doesn't want to do harm and doesn't want to be manipulative,
Hi, Lisa.
then we're gonna take some of that pressure off, listen to our clients, and have genuine empathy and concern for where our clients are coming from and what is going on with them, right? I think those are things to consider, because a lot of programs that are out there that are going to teach you along the way how to sell your business, they are not going to give a crap about your client. They're going to give a crap about getting you sales, not even necessarily about you either, and not even necessarily about that, but just selling their product essentially to you. And they're going to teach you that to add time pressure, to do all of those things that her coach did, because it's good for a good sales tactic. And it is. Jen bought, right? But at the end of the day, are you doing your client harm? So that's a big question, because now she can sit here and go, it feels more like that coach did me harm than good. There's a lot of places that coach did me harm. And personally, I don't want my clients walking away feeling like I did them harm. Right. So something to consider, something to be considerate about as a coach. Jen, tell us about your next coaching experience. I'm going to put you back on the spot in the spotlight here.
I'm just going to say it. Prepare yourself, because this one is crazy. So after Lisa says, no, my goodness, no, I'm going to spare the details. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue. Hi, Tristan as well. Hello.
Oh yeah. Hi, Tristan. Yeah. So the second coach comes on the heels of the first coach. So again, I told you that the first coach made, she shared her opinions with me, and they were opposite of me in a way where I started to feel uncomfortable working with her. I didn't feel safety or trust. I didn't feel like I could fully be myself now that I knew I had a completely opposite opinion about something, that I would want to talk about. So, I'm trying to think of the exact timeline. Okay. As I'm thinking about it, I'm sorry. I'm like reliving this. I haven't done this. So she introduces me to this is bad. She introduces me to one of her clients. My old coach introduces me. She says, "Hey, I have a client right now, and I think you two would really hit it off. I think you two have a lot in common, and I think you would really like her. I don't know what would come of it. I just think you two should know each other." Now, again, at the time, she's correct. We met and we became friendly friends. We were involved in some similar organization stuff. We had common interests. And sure enough, she's a life coach, and I ask her about her coaching, and she tells me that, she'll do first six sessions for, $60 an hour. And I was like, sold. Boom. Gave her the money, done. And after 6 sessions, I was like, she's the one. She's the one that I really feel safe enough with to go and really get what I want. Still hadn't changed jobs or anything, and was still like, we have work that still needs to be done. So she wants me to invest just like the other one for a year. And I say, no, I can't do a year. And she says, okay, well, that's what I know with my work with people, it takes to get results. And I say, okay, well, I can only commit to 6 months. Again, $150 an hour. Again, this is a very uncomfortable price for me. I don't feel good about it.
She raised her prices on you?
No.
It was for the 6 sessions. It was $60 an hour.
It was an intro package, which I think is
Oh.
awesome, right? Because you get to try out the coach and you get to do it at, an introductory price. And then, that I guess that's kind of the hook, because then you either commit she wants you to commit to a year after that. And I said, no, I could only do 6 months.
By the way,
And-
pumping the brakes really quick here. She's wanted out of this job for 9 months, man. You want her to wait another year? Sorry.
So, yeah, okay. But I really, at this point, was like, no, I don't want to stop this work. It's working. I know it. I can feel myself changing. I can feel a lot of newness. Like, I want to do this. I think she's the one. So I tell her I can do 6 months. And this is where harm number 1 comes in. Gosh. She says, okay, well, I only work with clients for a year. So, you can pay me for 6 months, but I will, be counting on us working together for a year. And again, I was not the Jen I am now. So I said, okay.
Was there a contract?
I don't remember, which is not a good sign.
But at the time, was it more like, okay, you'll pay for 6 months, but we're going to try to get you to work for a year?
Well, that's why
Yes,
I asked about
it was
like
that.
the contracts.
Which
It
is
was
Because I was
that.
like, did she write that into
Even-
the contract?
No,
Or
she
even
just-
even if it wasn't contract, that's still like overstepping the boundaries, and that's like you as a coach. You're
there's so many
playing
things
the
that are wrong with it. Don't get me yeah.
You're
There's so
showing
many
that
things.
you have ulterior motives from the get-go that are not really aligned with what you wanted, Jen, which is 6 months.
Exactly. We're not
Which-
listening to our client, right? We're
It
not
already
listening to what
tells-
her timeline is. Can
It
you
already
imagine
tells.
if you have like an executive coaching client and they're like, no, we're merging in 6 months or 3 months. We need this all to be done in 6 months. And you went, I'm sorry, it has to take a year. Your several $1 million business has to figure this out. Like, that's not going to fly. No, Jen, no harm to you. I understand.
Again, I was in a very vulnerable, I would call it desperate. I was in a desperate pain point place. Like, I was willing, and this is the problem. This is where it can be, in my opinion, predatory if we are not aware of this stuff. Because I didn't have the capacity. First of all, I was such a people pleaser. That was one of the things I worked on, by the way. I didn't have the capacity to speak against this coach who I'm wanting to work with. When she said that, I just was like, okay, like just sweeping it under the rug. Looking back, I'm just like, damn, that's really messed up. Like, she knew that I was a pleaser. I told her that. I told her that's something I want to work on.
And she's like, yeah, she saw money signs. She's like, okay, we'll work on that.
So that's harm 1.
The
Harm
other thing
2.
too,
Go ahead.
oh wait, really quick. The one thing to consider in this moment too is Jen, good for you for at least sticking to that 6 months guns, like being at least like, I'm okay. I mean, it's got to be 6 months. I'm not comfortable with years. Like that. At least you were willing to do that, to stand up to her a bit, So
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like reliving this, like, oh man. Oof. Yeah, I pushed back as much as I possibly could at that point in time with who I was. With who I am now, that wouldn't fly, I can tell you that. So harm 2 is that she, again, problem going into it, we were friends before I started paying her $150 an hour weekly to coach me. And so there was already a blurred boundary. And so she just kind of kept the boundary totally blurred. She did show up and pay attention, and she was present, not like the other one. The problem was that in between, she was, I think, I didn't know if we were friends or coaching or both. It was a very blurry relationship, and I think this is very problematic. It's just, I didn't know what roles we were in whenever we were talking. So that was hard. So we get to 6 months, and again, I want to keep going because I haven't gotten the result I want. Or no, maybe I had gotten the result I want. Hang on. I had gotten the result that I wanted. Yeah, actually, we get to 6 months and I want to keep going though, for whatever reason. I think I still need coaching. And she ends up, this is where the professional boundary blurring is a big problem. She ends up going through a major shift in her life, and she starts to have her own issues. Again, blurred boundaries here. So she's sharing her issues with me. I get certified as a coach. Yes, yes, yes. Now I'm getting the timeline. Sorry. So I get certified as a coach. She says, hey, now that you're certified, oh, you guys are going to love this. Now that you're certified, maybe you could coach me sometimes. And, you know, it would just be like, I'll tack on an extra session for you. Now, here I am, a brand new coach, and I'm thinking, I'm about to get paid $150 an hour to coach. That's my thought. Is like, hell yeah, I'll coach you and you give me an extra session. I didn't even think twice. Well, you can probably predict where this went.
Tell us more. Where did it go, Jen?
Well, first of all, I will say I did coach her because I coached her well because I had good training. And I've had training here. Yep.
Yes.
So I coached her well. And I think, I'm going to be honest, I think she was a little taken aback. I think she was a little like, holy shit, we've reversed roles. The student has become the teacher, and I'm a little uncomfortable. I sense that. There was one conversation where I caught a major blind spot for her, illuminated it, brought it to the surface for her to see, and it was just like, it was one of those, you know, when you're a new coach, those moments that you're like, oh, please let the client have that moment. She had that moment. And I was like, dang. Like, I haven't been coaching for very long, and that was like a life-changing shift that just happened for her. Oh my God. Well, after that, she didn't want me to coach her anymore. So I coached her twice, and then she ends up really spiraling. And she gets to the point where she's clearly visibly having some sort of mental breakdown. She's having some sort of major mental health. I don't know. She's not okay. She's not the same person. Her energy is insane. I don't even recognize her anymore. So I decide I'm going to end it with her, but I decide because I'm still a little bit of a pleaser, I'm going to do one final session with her just to make sure. Oh, and I was going to do it in person because I wanted to just make sure. Well, I met her in person, and I mean, she was in the middle of like, I don't know what to call it, like a manic episode. I mean, it was crazy. She like yelled at me. She like tried to make me declare things. Like she told me I was a healer. She was like, you need to declare that you're a healer, make it known to the world, and told me I had demons in me. It was crazy. Okay. I mean, just like nuts. And I was so scared because I'm like, oh my God, I've never been up close and personal with someone who's like, I don't know where she is. Like she wasn't there. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, she, bless her heart though. All I got to say is I, to this day, have nothing but love for her. And I hope that she gets the help she needs. It doesn't seem to be that is the case, but I still hold hope. Anyways, I leave that session and I go, okay, confirmed. This person can't coach me anymore. And also, I don't even want to have a relationship with this person anymore because this person needs to get help. This person needs to focus on themselves. So I asked for a refund. We had one session left and I asked for a refund. But what I wanted to do was ask for an additional $300 for the 2 sessions that I coached her and she was supposed to pay me for. But I knew that she was broke. At this point in time, she had exposed a lot of stuff to me and I knew she had no money. And so I just couldn't ask for that. I decided to chalk that up as a very painful learning experience. And that's it. Jen, don't ever swap roles and don't ever coach someone with the idea that you're going to be paid maybe. Like, no, we're not doing that. So that was a lesson. She refunds me $150. And, you know, I try to part ways with her, not only as a coach, and I did it very lovingly and very respectfully. And then, she wants to stay friends. She wants to stay in contact. And I said, unfortunately, I'm not, I can't, because I'm feeling at this point, not only like concern for her, but I'm feeling like really shame. I feel shame about, I've spent money on this. I've been kind of tricked by this person. I'm just really not emotionally good at this point. And so her tactic, after I tried to end all communication with her, was to have some sort of what I would call a narcissistic rage, and flip it around and make herself the victim and make me the perpetrator, and gaslight me. And yeah, and that was super painful. That was terrible. Like, that was awful. And honest to God, if it wasn't for Brooke and Lisa, I don't know if I would have gotten through it, because it was like making me feel crazy, because I couldn't even believe the stuff that, she said to me. So yeah, that was pretty harmful. That one.
I think it's very obvious how these things are harmful. And I just want to say, like, going through a mental health crisis, I mean, we can't, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have the wherewithal, extricate yourself from that situation. Amazing job you extricating yourself from it, Jen. Didn't she also do something that I thought was pretty harmful, and I could see somebody doing it sort
Yes.
of, didn't she like use you in a a marketing situation without your permission?
This is such a good point. I'm so glad you brought this up. She asked if we could take a selfie when we were in our last session together in person. And like, I didn't know if it was just a selfie. Again, blurred boundaries. So I don't know if it's a selfie as like, hey, we're friends, or what. I assumed it was just, hey, we're friends. And the next thing I know, she posts it on her Instagram, tags me in it, and basically makes up a story about how she, like, I don't know. Her story was so delusional. She had a story of like how she helped me, and she didn't help me. She yelled at me, and she tried to force me to say things. Like, she scared me. And she had a story on her Instagram that I was tagged in, saying, my client Jen had this major moment today in our coaching. And I was just like, oh my God, what have I gotten involved with? Like, how am I in this so deep?
So there's a couple. I want to sort of outline and maybe bullet point some of the harmful things that we saw. The overstepping and blurring of boundaries, for one. Like, who is it? I don't really necessarily have a problem with coaches coaching other coaches. Like, that's how reciprocal coaching works.
Hold on, pause for 1 second. I just want to say thank you, Jen, so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, and when there's an established, like, okay, the value that we are trading is equal of like coaching sessions, like, I don't really have so much of a problem with that. And if it's in writing, all
the big red flag there, though, is Jen is paying her and she is not paying Jen. So
yes, yeah, and well, also the enmeshment, like, they're friends, but they're also each other's clients. Which, like, if you were just coaching your friend for free, that's one thing. If you are now exchanging money as a professional service, but you're also friends involved in coaching, that's kind of a big no-no. You shouldn't, if you are a coach, you shouldn't be coaching someone who you're that enmeshed with. That's a harmful thing.
The other harmful. Fair to note that that like through this process, Jen was getting her certification, and she got certified, and she was learning sort of what the ICF coaching model was. And I think I think she was learning about her coaching sessions in that process as well.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. So
yeah, once I got trained, I was like, oh, wow. Like, here's the truth. The only reason that Coach A and Coach B kept getting money from me is because I didn't know any better. I didn't have any knowledge base to understand what was right, what was wrong, what was supposed to happen, what was not supposed to happen. I had no understanding of that. And I think that's concerning, And so what can we do as coaches to help educate our clients on what coaching is and what coaching isn't. So it's very clear before the relationship starts. And then there's something to be held accountable to, that the client can say, hey, in their coaching agreement, they said that they don't give advice, and now they're giving advice. Like there has to be something for the client, I think, to have real safety to refer to.
That's
You
that
guys think?
contract. Very critical. Anthony, what were you saying?
Yeah, second portion where I don't think it evolved to this point, but it was a red flag that harm might be coming was I guess it was the start of a dependency aspect where she said, my clients see transformation work over a year. I'll consent to allowing 6 months, but I expect that will work for a year.
Yeah.
That tells me that this coach might be trying to get you to be dependent on them, might be working against your best interest because they've stated they want to work with you for a year despite letting you work for 6 months. That doesn't bode well with me. Like if I was a coaching client, like if the work gets done in 6 months, it gets done in 6 months. If it gets done in 3 months or one session, that's the way it works because it worked for the client that way. I'm not the one dictating how and when this actually is going to work out for you.
It's so weird. Like
you're creating harm by stating that it's going to be only one way.
I just have so many questions about that model. Like, are you as a coach then coaching less or coaching worse to ensure that your clients don't have major transformation in the first 12 months? Are you like I just have so many questions.
Am I just sort of letting you we'll get off tangent for like 20 to 30 minutes because
we can't do too much work here.
We can't do too much because then it'll be done shorter. Another one would be the confidentiality breach, which Lisa caught.
Yes, big one.
Which is really a biggie, which should be outlined very specifically in any coach-client contract that's signed. Was the taking a selfie and just posting it on Instagram.
No permission, nothing, no conversation.
This is my client,
and
X, Y, and Z happened in the session, or she got X, Y, and Z results without consulting Jen and
Sure, not. It's a total breach of confidentiality.
Yeah, had she said, hey, can I post this on my story and tag you in it? I would have said no.
I want to also quickly say that, like, having packages, 3 months package, we have a 3-month package. I have a 6-month package. There's nothing wrong with offering things in that way. I have a 1-month package. Even saying I either have a 3-month package or I have an hourly rate. Like, there's nothing wrong. You're giving the client the choice, right? You're saying you can do, I work with my clients either hourly and they pay this much an hour, or I give you a great discount for if you sign up for and commit to 3 months. It's really up to you. You know how much work you need, right? Like, that to me is a much more ethical way to present options than to say, oh no, it's 1 year or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So,
yeah, and just hearing you say that about the dependency, Anthony, like, to me, it's so glaringly obvious now. And it's just so interesting how different my perspective was without knowing anything about the coaching industry.
And that's the thing we teach students about, like, not creating dependency. The client will figure things out on their own, and it'll take as much time as it does. Usually takes longer than the client.
Let's be real though. It's not. It wasn't that she, I don't know necessarily. Yeah, she was creating dependency, and she was doing it for her pocketbook, right? She wanted to know that she was going to have $600 a month for a year solid. And she wanted to be able to count on that paycheck and add it to her list. And so it wasn't about Jen. That was about her making sure she had enough money to pay her bills. I would almost guess 100%. So
on top of that, it's kind of with the overstepping the boundaries and like the friendship enmeshment, but this is another kind of boundary that was crossed, which was the sharing of personal life details as a coach especially the coach's own financial situation, which Jen said that was, not so great. That could be sort of, I don't know if it was intentional or not on the coach's part, but that could be like, I'm not doing so well. You have to keep coaching with me. You have to keep paying me as your coach because I'm not doing so great. And I need help.
That's not Jen's responsibility.
Which is, it's not Jen's responsibility. And like, whether or not that was done intentionally or not, it's like not a good situation to be in as a client to feel responsible for your coach's well-being. It's flipping, the relationship kind of, not really that the coach is, the coach isn't looking out for your well-being in that sort of sense. They're there to give you a service as a professional, but being emotionally and financially responsible for your coach that you're paying is not, a good feeling. And then the final one. Oh, yeah.
We only have about 3 minutes left. I will have to hop off at 5 if you guys want to keep going. But I just wanted to.
I have one more thing I want to share about her. So, I don't know, maybe about halfway, 6. I don't know. It was after I had gotten like some big results, and I really believed in our work together, which I still do, because before she had whatever happened mentally, she was better than the first coach. She asked me if I would do an Instagram live with her and talk about coaching with her. And looking back, this makes me so uncomfortable to think that I did this, because she got me when I was in the high of the results. She got me when it was like I was screaming at the rooftops how great her coaching was. I'm giving her my time and essentially marketing for her by going on Instagram live with her. What did I get for it? Nothing. That's not okay. That really bothers me. Like, I'm really angry that I did that. I didn't know any better. So I'm like, I don't really blame myself. But yeah, looking back, like, she totally took advantage of me. And that Instagram live to this day probably still lives on her Instagram, where I'm singing her praises.
How could that how could that situation be handled in a more tactful manner? If a coach, let's say the relationship didn't end the way it did. It ended, amicably. You guys separated your ways, hypothetically speaking. What would be a better way that a coach could go about, sourcing, marketing from their clients?
If it's going to be it depends on how long the live is. If it's a few minutes, and that's it.
It was an hour.
If it's an hour, then I would credit the client that hour of their time. Like, I have just taken, we have put a value on time, right? And I'm going to take an hour of your time for my benefit. Then I'm going to credit you an hour session. Like, I'm going to give you something in return. Maybe if it's not crediting you an hour session, I don't know what it might be, but something that reciprocates back to that person. I mean, there are referral programs, there are things like that. It starts to get kind of pyramid schemey, but there's a lot of ways I think I can think of. Jen, how about for you?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it was due to the enmeshment that I missed that, because I was like, I really want her to get more clients and help more people. And I want more people to experience this. Again, I was high on the results, and that's all I was trying to do. It was like I was trying to preach.
Jen loves getting high.
Or if it was like a free coaching session, she's like, I'll coach you for free if you do it on Instagram Live. I'm going to do it for this hour for free, and maybe I'll give you an hour after. Something like, there's a way to like give back to that client. If she had a giant following and Jen was just starting out coaching, and maybe it was an opportunity for them to, for Jen to share about her business too.
This was before. Was before I was coach.
There's so many things that could have happened to do that. So I have to hop off, you guys. You guys close up the live for me. And it was awesome to be here. Don't forget to do all the things right, you guys, or else. No, just kidding. All right. Bye.
The final thing I was going to say, which I wanted to leave off on, was, and this is not real. I don't want to, it's causing harm, but it's not really the coach's fault in this sense. And that is the mental health aspect. And when you are going through a mental health crisis like that, you might know better normally, but you might end up disregarding things that end up being harmful to your clients. And having sort of an awareness of, am I okay enough to be giving coaching sessions? Am I in a space where I can come to the client as a professional, wholly 100% there for them, focused on them? If the answer is no, then I probably shouldn't. I'm not in a space to be coaching right now. I can't, leave my issues at the door, be present for my client. But again, if you're already in so deep where you're having a crisis and you're not even aware of these things.
Yeah. And that's where she was. There was no awareness. It's just.
It's kind of hard to, blame the coach in that aspect because they're going through something that I can't really meet them in that space. I don't really know what it is they're going through, and I don't know how to help them. And as a client, it's not Jen's responsibility to, give them a referral or say, hey, here's a line for a mental health professional. You go do your thing. Jen's a client in this aspect. But, having that sort of awareness of, am I getting to a point that I can't be wholly present? And money is involved in that too, where it's like, as Jen said, the coach said that they're not doing so well financially. Well, now they might be encouraged to keep coaching despite maybe early indicators that they're not mentally well enough to start coaching other people.
Yeah. When she got to that point, I was the only client she had left. She had lost all of her clients. And the only reason probably that I was still there as long as I was is because of the enmeshment, is because of the friendship and the blurred boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely cared about her and I didn't want to believe that what I was seeing was real. Like I still wanted to believe that she was okay until I faced it and saw it. And it was like,
yeah. So that was a few ways that coaches can do harm. And it's really simple. Just follow the ICF Code of Ethics. They'll probably cover all your bases. And if you were a client, become aware of the ICF Code of Ethics.
Yes.
Because you can hold your coaches accountable by the Code of Ethics if they're accredited through the ICF. There are ways that you can hold them accountable through the ICF if they're doing things that are breaching those ethics or causing harm in that aspect, whether it's financial or, mental health harm, or, they're just not doing so good as a coach.
I would also mention that there's kind of a back alley place to report coaches on the internet. And I don't know if people know about it. I mean,
go on.
Okay, so it's on Reddit, which most people, I think, know Reddit. But if you don't know Reddit, it's an anonymous, social media platform?
I mean, it's sort of anonymous. It's as anonymous as you make it.
Yeah, so it's anonymous for the most part. But there is a subreddit that has been created from the harm that was caused by a specific life coach school. And this subreddit to this day has only grown to accumulate people who now just go there to talk about the harm caused by coaches. So it's an interesting place to, I think, I spend time there because I do want to make sure I do my due diligence and not cause harm. And I think it's a good place to look.
I know it's r/life coach snark, right?
Yeah, life coach snark on Reddit.
It's a good place to I've noticed there's two crowds of people there. They kind of don't like each other sometimes. People who just are done with life coaching. They don't like life coaches. It's a scam. It's a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yep.
And then there are people who are life coaches there who are sort of in the weeds, sort of pulling apart. Okay, this is a bad example, but there are good examples, and how can we figure out the good from the bad?
Yeah, that's me. I'm one of those on there. I think I'm a top contributor, actually.
You're probably the moderator at this point.
I am. I do. Because I recognize the harm, right? Because I've been harmed, but yet at the same time, I know what good coaching is. So I also go there to speak to that, to not let people just sit in this all or nothing black and white thinking. I mean, of course, some
But
will choose that, but
it's tough right now because a lot of it is on the clients to do the work of figuring out what the difference between a good life coaches and bad life coaches, because like Jen was when she first started with her life coach, didn't know anything else about life coaching. It's kind of a crapshoot. Sometimes you might get someone who's really awesome, or you might get someone who did not take our school and our classes and wasn't credentialed.
yeah, that's the biggest thing in retrospect. Like, I would have, had I known what I know now, I would have made sure that the people that I was paying $150 an hour to were trained through ICF accredited training. And to be honest, I probably would prefer someone who was credentialed over someone who wasn't, knowing that I could report them if there were to be an ethical violation is pretty comforting.
And I'm favoring ICF, but like even any other credentialing agency, like the Board of Certified Coaches and the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, there's like a handful of other credentialing agencies. As long as there's some sort of agency that can sort of standardize and normalize the education of a coach and hold them to some sort of ethical standard, that's miles ahead better than just getting someone who just randomly calls himself a coach, which is what a lot of the life coach snark people complain about.
Right. Or they're certified through like, Joe Schmo's life coach school. Well, what is that? What are they learning? I mean, you have no idea what they're learning. You have no idea what their framework is, and some of the frameworks are actually incredibly harmful. That's why the life coach snark thing is there, is because the coaching model that the school uses is very problematic when forced, right? It can be explored and it can be utilized as like a perspective, but when it's forced as like, this is the way, it's incredibly harmful.
So I think we've gone over how life coaches can do harm. Do we have another hour? How we can
clear illustration.
There's so much more that we didn't even really touch on.
It's so harmful.
But hold on, if people want a part 2 of how coaches can cause harm, let us know, because we could do that. Because today was just my stories.
Or how life coaches can do good. We should probably like find a way to be like, hey, we're also actually kind of cool.
We did balance last month.
That's a good point. It's scary.
But it's good, you guys. It's good that we're critical of our craft. That shows that we care. If you're not, I mean, what does that say about you? If we were just like, yeah, everything about life coaching is great. Well, clearly we've got our head in the sand.
If you don't like us, come at us. All right. Try talking crap on Certified Life Coach Institute. All right.
Yeah.
see if you can
talk
get dirt
crap
on
in our comments.
I know Lisa's somewhere laughing right now.
Get dirt on Jen as a coach.
Try to find my Instagram live.
You should probably untag yourself from that, really.
Yeah, you definitely can do that if you don't know how to.
I have untagged myself, but the video I'm pretty sure still exists.
Well, that's fine, as long as I can't find the coach.
Yeah.
That's it for CLCI Live Scary 101, How Coaches Can Do Harm.
This was a scary one.
This was scary. It can be scarier. We haven't even got... I just want to say there was one where there was a therapist who also did coaching. And they did not separate their services as well as they should legally. And they did therapy during their life coaching sessions, and they got into some legal trouble because of it. That's really only applicable if you're a therapist, but there are other cases out there that are well documented. But other than that, take Coaching 101 and Coaching 102. You'll find out how coaching is not scary, and you'll learn how to not only to not do harm, but to do good, which I think is like one of the ICF's major ethical points. It's not enough to just not do harm. You must actively be doing good. There's my spiel. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next Tuesday on some other scary topic. Bye-bye.
See you guys.